Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we do an update on all the news coming out of Ninerland on this March the 20th. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. We're also brought to you by Clawdaddy Arcades. And Clawdaddy's a great follow on Instagram at claw_daddy_arcades. So you can find a location near you. They've got 3 locations in Southern California, a location in Fresno, one in Modesto, and they got one opening here in the Bay Area. So once again, Clawdaddy Arcades, claw_daddy_arcades, and find a arcade near you. And this video is also sponsored by LearnKeys Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. Whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high-demand field, they offer over 30 different certification programs to help you take that next step in your professional career. They've been in business for over 38 years or 37 years. They've over 200,000 students currently, and over 100 of them are placed in well-paying jobs each and every month. So courtesy of LearnKeys Upskill Academy. So the links are in the description. Hopefully we can help you out. LearnKeys Upskill Academy. Thanks to them for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's talk a little bit about the 49ers. A lot of updates, a lot of news coming out of Ninerland. Some that impacts the Niners directly, some indirectly. Why don't we start with an indirect report? Todd McShay today came out, the draft guru, and said the Jets, a lot of talk about the New York Jets drafting Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart, possibly as high as the 7th pick in the draft. So that's great news for the 49ers, who are sitting there at 11. If they're not in the market for a quarterback. If another quarterback goes in front of them, that's another prospect that's pushed down into their lap. So that's good news. Todd McShay says the Jets are hot to trot on Jackson Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, and may draft him at number 7. Bunch of interesting notes around the Niners today. Still, a lot of people are upset by the fact that the Niners lost Dre Greenlaw in free agency. And Tim Kawakami had a quote where he said, they're so intent, talk about the Niner front office, they're so intent on getting the best deal possible that they end up not getting the player. And this was what he said in relationship to the fact that Greenlaw was able to walk away in free agency. A very bitter pill for the 49ers, for a team that has as much money into the cap as they do, to let a respected veteran like Dre Greenlaw out of their room. Really not a good move. You know, you want to get a great deal. Well, guess what? You just lost one of the heart and soul players on your team. And just because you didn't get a great deal, would it really have killed you to get a great deal on 50 players on the roster and maybe not a great deal on 2 or 3, and Greenlaw being one of those 2 or 3? Just a thought, chew on that as he's piling up tackles for somebody else. John Lynch attended the Stanford Pro Day yesterday and met with a wide receiver that supposedly he's been liking for years, Alec Ayamanor, from the Stanford Cardinal, who is a very athletic player, but he's had a major knee injury. He doesn't get real separation. It's like he's got great workout numbers, but he doesn't play to those workout numbers. He doesn't create that separation on the field. But according to reports, Lynch has liked Ayamanor for years. Ayamanor is also scheduled to attend the Niners local pro day at Levi's Stadium between now and draft day. So it sounds like the 49ers really like Ayamanor. Now, if he goes where his workout numbers say he's going to go, I think he worked out with a 4.40. He may go in the 3rd or 4th round. To me, he's a late day 3 flyer on an athletic receiver with traits who really doesn't get he doesn't really get a lot of bang out of his buck for his athleticism, because he just doesn't separate. I'll give you guys each $100 if you can give me a highlight where it showed Alec Ayamanor separating from a defender down the field. All the film I've seen of him, the defenders are right there on him. So this is a player that went to Stanford, John Lynch went to Stanford. He drafted Solomon Thomas, who went to Stanford. We'll see if he drafts another guy who went to Stanford, and hopefully this guy can play. Matt Barrows weighed in on the center position, and Matt was talking to some of the Niner people. He says, I would not be surprised if the 49ers went with Jake Brendel, Matt Hennessy, and Drake Nugent at center. So, one of the challenges in covering the 49ers is they don't view themselves the way that other teams view them. One year it was like everybody thought they needed a safety. They didn't think they needed a safety. One year everybody thought they needed an offensive lineman. They didn't think they needed an offensive lineman. Right now, Pro Football Focus says Jake Brendel is one of the worst centers in pro football. But if you talk to Chris Forster and John Lynch, they think Jake Brendel is one of the best centers in pro football. So there's a huge disconnect between reality and their perception of reality. So sounds like, according to Matt Barrows, Brendel, Hennessy, and Drake Nugent will be the guys at center. So it's something to look for. Will the Niners draft a center? I would say absolutely, but it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. The Niners offseason plan, as far as the Niner offseason plan, John Lynch was asked about that. He's like, hey, man, we got the draft. We got this thing called the draft. We got a lot of picks. We have a plan, and we're going to execute it, and we're excited about it. So I guess it all starts right there, right? You got to have a plan. You got to execute that plan. Once again, the greatest draft in the history of the 49ers is the 86 draft. They got 6 starters. They probably need 12 starters out of this draft. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they fill their needs with the picks they have. They have 11 picks. So do they get a few more picks? Can they fill all of their needs? Will they hit on all their draft choices? It's pretty rare to see anybody hit on every pick. But that's their charge. That's their challenge, because they need to hit on all their picks. Trey Brown, according to Matt Barrows, is the Niners' leading candidate to man the third cornerback job. Brown was acquired as a free agent over the last couple of weeks from Seattle. Barrows also weighed in on Colton McKivitz, saying the Niner front office, think McKivitz is the bee's knees. They love McKivitz. San Francisco is not looking for a starting right tackle to replace Colton McKivitz. They're looking for a swing tackle, somebody who can play a little bit of left when Trent can't go, and maybe a little bit of right. So it doesn't sound like they are in the market for a starting right tackle. It sounds like they're in the market for somebody who's got experience playing both the left and the right side. By the way, it also could be Spencer Burford. If they're unable to find this player in the draft, they may use Burford as their swing tackle. Also, Matt Barrows said today that Drake Jackson may not play this season, or, wait for it, ever again. That would be a really bad break. This was the 49ers' highest draft choice a couple of years ago at a USC. Took him in the second round. He's got a knee problem. Hasn't been able to get on the field. Great guy. I mean, I'm rooting hard for this guy to get out there and do it, but it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. And it sounds like he's going to be a total bust. He's going to, not play this season and maybe not play anymore. That could be it for Drake. So that just adds another layer of urgency to the 49ers offseason number one task, which is to build up the defensive line. If you don't have Drake, then you need another edge rusher. By the way, PFF listed their favorite and least favorite moves of the Niners offseason, really for every team in the league. But for the Niners, their favorite move, what would you think? I would think maybe Mac Jones, but no, they went with Demarcus Robinson, the wide receiver who comes over from the Rams, and their line on Robinson is that he's only had 2 drops on 66 passes that have gone his way over the last 2 NFL seasons. So that's good. That's good to hear. Their least favorite pick among the 49er free agents, Luke Farrell, the blocking tight end. They gave him an 82.6 pass blocking grade, but they only gave him a 61.9 run blocking grade, and they gave him a run blocking grade in the 40s for what he did last year. So this is supposed to be the Niners, second tight end who's going to help them as a blocking tight end on the line of scrimmage, and it doesn't sound like he's much of a run blocker. So that's not good news. But that's PFF's favorite and least favorite 49er acquisitions via free agency. Also, the Niners were contacted, I guess, by the Minnesota Vikings about potentially bidding for J.J. McCarthy, and the Niners are not interested. They are not interested in J.J. McCarthy. Purdy's their guy. They're going forward with Purdy, and that's the bottom line. The Niners also concluded a pre-draft virtual visit this week with BYU offensive tackle Caleb Etienne. This guy sounds super intriguing. Now, I got to study more of his film, but he's 6'7", 329 pounds, and he ran 4.96 in the 40. When you're 6'7", 330, and you can run a sub 5.0 40, you're cooking. So Caleb Etienne sounds like a pretty damn good athlete, and I'm eager to see what he looks like. We'll talk more about him when I watch him more on the film, but that's an interesting name. Couple other notes in Ninerland. There's rumor coming out of Jacksonville, who just got rid of Trent Baalke as their general manager, may shop Trayvon Walker, their defensive end that they took number 1 in the draft a couple of years ago in front of Aiden Hutchinson, that he may be available in trades for a 3rd or 4th round pick. Now, the Niners did this move a couple of years ago where they traded a 5th round pick to the Lions for Laken Tomlinson, who had been a 1st round draft choice and had kind of been a bust. And then they got 2 or 3 real good seasons out of Laken Tomlinson. He really played well for the 49ers. And this is the same kind of thing. This is a failed 1st round pick whom you probably can acquire for a relative pittance. Trayvon Walker would be a really nice addition to the 49er defensive line opposite Nick Bosa. He's a big man who can really move. We're talking about 275 pounds, and he can really, really move. Is he Aiden Hutchinson? No. Should they drafted Hutchinson? Should Baalke have drafted Hutchinson instead of Trayvon Walker? Yeah. But can Trayvon Walker play in the NFL? Yeah, he can. Would he be great opposite Nick Bosa? I think he would be very good. To me, that would be a guy that I would call on if I were John Lynch. Maybe you trade back, you get a few extra picks in the mid rounds, and maybe you flip one of those picks to Jacksonville for Trayvon Walker, and then you'd have him under contract, I believe, for 2 more years, his next year. And then if you exercise the 5th year option potentially, but Trayvon Walker, could be I think he's going to play in the NFL for the next 10 years. I think he's going to be a pretty good player. Is he worthy of the number 1 pick? No. Was that a bad pick? Yeah. But it wasn't your pick. It was Jacksonville's pick. So if you can get Trayvon Walker for a 3rd or a 4th or some kind of mid-round pick, man, that's a guy that I would have a lot of interest in. I think Trayvon Walker in San Francisco opposite Nick Bosa playing for Chris Cassera could absolutely be a revelation. The Niners need to take a couple of shots on some high upside guys if they're going to have a chance to give themselves a chance to win the Super Bowl. You can't just sign special teamers and bottom of the roster guys. You got to take a couple flyers on some guys who are big time talents and hope that in your culture, in your locker room, in your world, that you can, unleash their talent and get it out of them. If Trayvon Walker came to San Francisco and he came of age as the player that a lot of people saw when he was at Georgia, yeah, that's the kind of move that would elevate the 49ers up quite a bit. And as a team that wants to come out of nowhere this year and win the Super Bowl, they may need a couple moves like this. So that one, keep in mind, Trayvon Walker's available from Jacksonville, and they want a mid-round pick for a guy who used to be the first pick, or once upon a time was the first pick in the draft. A couple other Niner notes. The Detroit Lions today signed free agent cornerback Rock Ya-Sin away from the 49ers. I don't think the Niners wanted to bring him back, but he played pretty well for the 49ers. 13 games for the Niners in 2024. He jumps now to Detroit. Detroit is just bolstering that secondary. They keep adding guys left and right, and now they add a veteran in Rock Ya-Sin. So I think that's going to be a strength of the Lions at some point. They keep adding so many bodies there. Also, Matt Barrows of The Athletic did his mock draft 2.0. The Athletic did a beat writer's mock. And Matty took Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon, over Teteroa McMillan, Tyler Booker, Jalen Walker, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan. They were all there. But Matty went with Derek Harmon. Now, I like Derek Harmon's ability as a pass rusher, but the numbers show that he is not good against the run. And I don't think the Niners should take a defensive tackle in the first round of the draft that isn't good against the run. The Javon Hargrave experiment did not go well, and they need a good run defender inside. That guy, you got to be able to rush the passer, but, man, you got to be able to play the run too. And Derek Harmon, according to the numbers, doesn't play the run very well. Brianna McDonald, who works for the Niners, did a nice interview with Mac Jones, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I looked at some of the quotes from Mac Jones, and I watched some of the interview. Mac says that he wanted to surround himself with winners, and that's why he came to the Niners and Kyle Shanahan. He likes Shanahan. He likes the organization. He says he knows Brock from hosting him for Brock's official visit to Alabama. So when Brock had his official visit, he, I guess, hung out and stayed with Mac Jones. So there's a relationship there. Now, I don't know how well they know each other, but Mac says he does know Brock Purdy. There was a guy on X today who was asking, who is your day 3 draft crush? Which is an interesting question because we're talking, most people just follow the draft for the first round. Most people don't even have a day 3 player that they like, let alone somebody that they're dead set on. I, of course, responded with Willie Lampkin, the center guard / fullback from North Carolina, who I absolutely love. But I'll give you some of the other names that were thrown out. Tez Johnson, the wide receiver from Oregon. Xavier Restrepo, the wide receiver from Miami. Bashul Tutin, the running back from Va Tech. Sean Dolak, the incredibly productive linebacker from Buffalo. Za Frazier, a corner from Texas San Antonio. Ty Robinson, one of my favorites, the defensive tackle from Nebraska. I think he's a total day 3 steal. DJ Giddens, the running back from K-State. I don't know that he's getting to day 3, to be honest. Antoine Powell-Ryland, the Va Tech edge rusher. Kyle Monangai, the running back from Rutgers. Brashard Smith, the running back from SMU. Jabbar Muhammad, the corner from Oregon. RJ Harvey, really good running back from Central Florida. Teddy Buchanan from my St. Ignatius Wildcats via the Cal Bears, the linebacker. J.J. Pegues, the big defensive tackle from Ole Miss, really like him. Nick Martin, the linebacker from Oak State. Dante Thornton, the wide receiver from Tennessee. Taj Brooks, the running back from Texas Tech, one of my favorites. Love Taj Brooks. Nazir Stackhouse, the defensive tackle from Georgia. Jalen Knoll, the wide receiver from Iowa State. Trevor Etienne, the running back, I believe, for Georgia. That's not Caleb Etienne. That's Trevor Etienne. And then Nick Nash, the San Jose State wide receiver. And the last guy on the list, somebody said Desmond Watson. Desmond Watson weighs 450 pounds. He's the nose guard from Florida. I don't know what he is at the pro level. I don't know if he is a pro. He's probably got to drop about 100 pounds. But, man, I'd be interested in him. He's super athletic, and he's the biggest, widest, football player on the planet. Maybe as a short yardage, who knows? I don't know what you'd use him as, center. But he's athletic. He's 450 pounds. He's really overweight, but he's really, really talented. So there you go. Oh, and then the last note of the day on the Niners, and this one's kind of interesting. This is courtesy of betonline.ag. The odds are out on Tyler Lockett's next home. This is the Seattle wide receiver who was cut. There was some speculation he was going to retire. There was some speculation that he was going to join Pete Carroll with the Raiders, but he's still on the free agent market. And they put out the odds today of who are the favorites to sign him. Green Bay's at 6-1. Dallas is at 5-1. The Jets are at 9-2, like 4.5-1, basically. The Chargers are at 13-4. And the 49ers are the 2-1 favorites to sign Tyler Lockett. I thought that was really interesting. Now, he's in the division, but he's an older player. His numbers have gone down for 3 years in a row. He does have great ball skills. I mean, awesome ball skills. He's not big. He's small, but he does run routes. He does have hands. That's interesting. The Niners, 2-1 favorites to sign Tyler Lockett. He doesn't make them younger, healthier, or cheaper, probably. But that's an interesting name, and just keep that one in your back pocket as the 49ers are thinking about different moves and different guys they may add. There's a lot of people saying, well, they may need to grab a wide receiver in the draft. Well, Tyler Lockett. Will the Niners be the landing spot for Tyler Lockett? I can't imagine he's going to get big money, but that's an interesting name. He's done an awful lot of good things against the Niners for Seattle. Will the Niners somehow grab Tyler Lockett? I think that is going to be one to watch. All right. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to all of you. And that does it for our 49er update. And once again, thanks for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.